A new nominee for the Pentagon's Indo-Pacific office is raising eyebrows after calling for Taiwan to spend a tenth of its GDP on defense. Local human rights groups call for the government to impose regulations on short video platform TikTok, saying it harms children's mental health.
不断的去对这些机器人的账户去推播其实是危害他们身心健康的内容，甚至是去优化这些美化这些忧郁然后或者是悲伤甚至是鼓励自杀这样的一个讯息哦。
The government proposes a new system to ensure migrant fishers in Taiwan are paid fairly, but migrant worker advocates are skeptical. Plus, it's been 3 years since the US imposed export controls on AI chips for China to try to curb their AI capabilities. But have the rules helped Washington achieve its goals? A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. A top Pentagon nominee under the Trump administration is turning up the pressure on Taiwan, urging it to boost defense spending to 10% of GDP. Cadence Claranta reports.
The nominee to lead the Pentagon's decision-making on the Indo-Pacific region is grilled by U.S. senators at his confirmation hearing and reveals steep expectations for Taiwan's defense spending.
And I strongly believe that Taiwan needs to do its part and to pay and to increase its defense spending. It was President Trump who said that Taiwan, which is an island that faces an existential threat from the People's Liberation Army, from the Chinese military, that Taiwan should spend upwards to 10% of its GDP on defense. I strongly support that.
That's twice the amount that President Lin Hsin-yi has pledged to spend on defense, announcing in August that he would push it up to 5% of GDP before 2030, as Taiwan faces continuous pressure from the U.S. to raise its budget amid heightened tensions with China, which claims Taiwan and has not ruled out the use of force to bring the country under its control. Responding to No's comments, Taiwan's defense ministry stayed strong on its 5% goal.
核心的国防的支出我们明年应该会超过3%，当然我们会逐步增加，那来实现最后我们总统所承诺的5%。
The 10% demand, experts say, is unrealistic.
我的观察，这是川普那边一些人的单独的说法。从全世界角度来看，目前没有一个民主国家的国防预算可以到达 GDP 的10%，所以依照中华民国目前这个总的预算来看的话，我们如果可以达到5%，应该是一个甜蜜点。
But already, Taiwan's push to increase defense spending is facing difficulties. The legislature is at a stalemate over the proposed budget for next year, which includes a defense budget of more than 3% GDP, a sharp increase from this year. It's facing pushback from some opposition lawmakers, who are rejecting the entire budget proposal because it fails to include pay raises for soldiers. Legislators from both of Taiwan's major parties say they support increasing defense spending, but opposition parties made major cuts and freezes on this year's budget, meaning Taiwan's government could have an uphill battle ahead of them, as pressure from Washington to spend more on the military becomes even greater. Hank Xu, Patrick Chen, Alan Lu, and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
Former officials and security experts from around the world are in Taipei to discuss ways to strengthen Taiwan's self-defense capabilities and counter China's assertive actions in the Indo-Pacific.
The future of Taiwan matters. Preserving the status quo in Taiwan is not a matter of convenience for countries like Australia, the United States, Japan, or others. If Taiwan were to be forcibly placed under the authoritarian rule of the CCP, there would not be a corner of the globe that would be unaffected.
One key point raised at the forum is Taiwan's commitment to boosting its defense budget to deter aggression. This comes after Taiwan President Lai Ching-te promised to raise national defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2030.
So I want to applaud President Lai for making a commitment to increase defense budget, because that's a significant signal that Taiwan is willing to shoulder the burdens. And, you know, the United States, at the same time, wants to see Taiwan make new investments in the right areas, drone technology, drone detection, mobile tactical weapons.
The forum is also focusing on new technologies and Taiwan's civil defense efforts. 26 Chinese military aircraft and 7 ships were spotted around Taiwan's air defense identification zone early Wednesday. The Defense Ministry says 18 of the planes entered zones north, west and southwest of Taiwan's main island. It's the latest in a growing string of similar grey zone tactics meant to wear down Taiwan's defences. Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ, is not part of Taiwan's airspace, but serves as a defensive buffer. Chinese aircraft breached the ADIZ early Tuesday morning as well. TikTok, one of the most used apps among young people in Taiwan, is under fire over claims that it harms children's mental health. Human rights group Amnesty International and lawmakers are calling for action to hold foreign online apps accountable. Lin reports.
停止演算法剥削，
停止演算法剥削，
停止推波焦虑，
停止推波焦虑，
拒绝过度收集个资，
拒绝过度收集个资。
A human rights group and lawmakers stand together in Taipei, calling for attention to the social media app TikTok, which they say is addictive and threatens the mental and physical well-being of over 380,000 children in Taiwan.
不断的去对这些机器人的账户去推播其实是危害他们身心健康的内容，甚至是去优化这些美化这些忧郁然后或者是悲伤甚至是鼓励自杀这样的一个讯息哦。为什么今天这些内容会对这个孩子造成这么大影响？其实就是因为他已经长期在收集这些用户的个资，也就是说，所以他可以帮他量身打造一个，就是可以去吸引他。 让他一直不断的去上演无底洞、兔子洞这样的一个状态。
Amnesty International, which has published 2 reports accusing TikTok of doing harm to children, hit a wall when the company brushed off the accusations. Now they've brought the issue up to the legislative level. While it's extremely difficult to filter out all potentially harmful content, it is possible to stop the app from recommending such content based on personal data.
第一个层面就是呢，儿童的资料不能够被任意的收集，也就是说呢，今天儿童的个资被收集的时候呢，必须要是有本人或者法定代理人的一个同意。社群平台他们在收集的过程当中，如果违反了刚刚我们讲的这些事情的时候，又或者呢，他去暴露这个儿童数位隐私的时候，他应该要相对应的处罚。
But before any domestic laws can hold the app accountable, lawmakers say there needs to be a government body in charge of foreign online platforms. And next, a local TikTok office to work directly with the authorities.
第一个，我们没有主管机关。我们今天问速发部、问通传会，或者是问卫福部，大家都说它不是主管机关，要落地归管，那才有办法。否则现在等于3不管地带，它没落地管不了。每次只要处理到境外的时候，我们通常都两手一摊，没办法。
Children health is not the only issue where TikTok is concerned. National security was briefly raised during the conference, as some argue that the app's Chinese origin could be a threat to digital safety. And TikTok is not the only social media platform accused of causing addiction and exposing children to harmful content. As social media apps continue to occupy the lives of young users, it could point to an extensive legal battle ahead for their regulation. Ethan Chen and Lin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
A new system to protect migrant fishers from unpaid wages is set to come online next year. Taiwan's deep sea fleet employs more than 10,000 foreign workers, mostly from Southeast Asia. But some ship owners are known to withhold their crews' pay. Under the new system, the government will rank ship owners by risk level based on how they pay their crews. Those with higher risk must contribute more to a wage reserve fund. Only no-risk operators will be exempt. Companies that don't pay in could lose their operating licenses. For a closer look at the new rules on migrant fishers' salaries, John Van Trieste spoke to Shi Xiang from the Taiwan Association for Human Rights.
How have fishing boats been able to get away with withholding their crews' wages in the first place? Can you give us some explanation?
之所以会发生欠薪案，是因为船长、船东或中介呢，他们利用渔工在海上孤立， 没办法对外通讯去确认薪资到底有没有汇入他们家人的户头所导致的一个现象。所以如果渔工在海上就可以使用 WiFi， 他们可以每个月去确认薪资是否有正常的发放。
So what's your reaction to this new fund that ship owners will have to pay into to ensure their crew salaries are paid on time?
它完全无法解决问题，再加上它其中提到每个月都发薪资是零风险，然后欠薪3个月是低风险，这个是我们公民社会难以接受的一个状况，因为雇主支付薪资给员工是天经地义的这样，那我们很担心这一个政策呢，其实会鼓励业者呢把欠薪当做一个常态。
Since you're so critical of the new policy, what do you think the government should do instead?
应该回归到让远洋渔工适用劳基法，然后废除所谓的 two-tier system， 就是废除聘雇双轨制，然后应该要让远洋渔工完整的纳入台湾的相关的劳动法规的保障。
Once again, that was Shi Xiang from the Taiwan Association for Human Rights. 19 people are now confirmed dead in eastern Taiwan, 2 weeks after a mountain lake burst its banks and flooded the town of Guangfu. Rescue workers found the latest body in a car at an industrial lot. They're believed to be a missing gravel yard owner. If confirmed, that would leave 5 people still unaccounted for. Tens of thousands of volunteers have travelled to the area to help with clean-up efforts, but officials warn the work is dangerous, citing one volunteer excavator who died from infection. Authorities urge volunteers to be careful and say they're relying on military engineers to carry out dangerous recovery work. Coming up after the break, Taiwanese electronics manufacturer Pegatron has bought a new $30 million facility in Texas. Is it part of a growing trend? We ask a local business expert.
This month's top hits on TaiwanPlus. More stars, more surprises, even Lin's sanity. This season, discover the people who make Taiwan shine.
You are not alone.
Oh my goodness.
Delve into culinary scenes and meet the unsung heroes behind the flavors you love.
我就是用我的动力去影响我的下一代。
How can this aging power plant transform to create a cleaner future?
我们台湾其实对于电力系统的稳定，因为我们有半导体的产业，这件事情是非常非常的重要。
One heart, one mission.
为国家，为你爱的家人去奋斗。
How did Team Taiwan take one swing and shock the world? Vibrant and original programs exclusively on TaiwanPlus.
Celebrate Taiwan's National Day with us. Enjoy live coverage of the celebrations, from vibrant cultural performances and expert commentary
to the world,
to the presidential address with real-time English translation. Join the TaiwanPlus hosts for the 114th National Day of the Republic of China, coming Friday, October 10th, 9 a.m. only on TaiwanPlus.
Playoff baseball is heating up, and every pitch and swing counts. Basketball, volleyball, and football seasons are here, bringing fast breaks, powerful spikes, and thrilling goals. From the locker room to the stands, from key plays to game-changing moments, we've got you covered. Action, highlights, and stories. Game on Taiwan, your home for sports.
Welcome back, you're watching TaiwanPlus News. Last year, China was able to buy nearly $40 billion in restricted chip-making equipment from companies in the US and allied countries, despite export controls. That's according to a report from a bipartisan committee of US lawmakers. It found that loopholes allowed companies like the Netherlands' ASML, Japan's Tokyo Electron, and US-based Applied Materials to sell $38 billion in sophisticated chip-making gear to China last year. The US committee says these sales are a threat to national security, and it's calling for expanded export controls to prevent further sales. 3 years ago, the US launched extensive export controls targeting China's tech sector. The rules have redrawn the map for the global AI industry and sparked a high-stakes battle for tech supremacy. Chris Gorin brings us this special report.
On October 7, 2022, the U.S. drops a bombshell on the tech world, sweeping new export controls, aiming to cut China off from advanced chips and the tools to make them. Coming just weeks before ChatGPT would set off the AI boom, the decision would strongly shape U.S.-China relations and global tech competition over the next 3 years.
Last week, we launched significant, carefully tailored restrictions on semiconductor technology exports to the PRC. These technologies are used to develop and field advanced military systems, including weapons of mass destruction, hypersonic missiles, autonomous systems, and mass surveillance.
While previous restrictions had targeted single companies like China's Huawei in 2019, this was a major escalation, covering the entire chip supply chain.
What happened between 2019 and 2022 was AI, right? I mean, basically, AI came into the picture. And the idea was, wow, AI is getting really capable. And at some point, you might want to control who has access to it, in particular, malicious actors.
There are different perspectives, and I served in the Biden administration around this time, and so I know that the federal government the Biden administration, the federal government was very focused on targeting not kind of the whole supply chain, essentially, of semiconductor and underlying AI technologies.
Beijing strongly objected from the start, calling it an attempt to contain China.
美方将科技和经贸问题政治化、工具化、武器化，阻挡不了中国发展，只会封锁自己，反噬自身。
Beijing feel like this is a clear signal of containment of China, and they were shocked at the scope of these type of controls.
A key enforcement tool, known as the Foreign Direct Product Rule, extended the ban not just to U.S.-made products, but to any product made with U.S. technology anywhere in the world. That had a huge impact, even on companies in Taiwan, like chip giant TSMC.
Even in 2020, TSMC had to stop collaboration with Huawei. And at that time, Huawei was something like 15% of TSMC's revenue. The China market, if you look at TSMC, and where it was poised to go before the controls, was certainly impacted.
The rules applied not only to chips, but also chip-making tools like lithography systems. That required buy-in from governments and companies in countries like the Netherlands and Japan, where these key tools are produced. In October 2023, almost exactly 1 year after the controls began, the U.S. expanded restrictions to cover new China-only models from NVIDIA and other loopholes, while China banned exports to the U.S. of critical minerals used in military and 5G devices. In April 2025, President Trump, back in the White House, announced his Liberation Day tariffs on every foreign country. China was hit hardest of all, with some tariffs exceeding 100%. China retaliated by issuing its toughest restrictions yet, cutting off multiple rare earth minerals to U.S. companies.
That's a moment where rubber meets the road, and the U.S. decision maker realize, oh, they have a bargaining chip too, and it's equally powerful as ours.
Just as the tech war seemed to reach a boiling point, both sides pulled back. By June, tariffs were lowered, and rare earth bans were lifted. But the friction continues. NVIDIA's attempt to sell its China-only H20 chip saw White House intervention, with Trump demanding a 15% cut of its sales. The U.S. recently extended export controls to the subsidiaries of sanctioned Chinese firms. After 3 years of export controls, have they worked as their creators intended?
At one level, yes, you could argue there has been success in slowing down the ability of Chinese companies to train advanced AI models. However, at the same time, Chinese AI models are very capable, and Chinese companies now dominate the leaderboard for virtually all open source, open weight models.
Now, all eyes are on the upcoming APEC summit in South Korea, where the two presidents are scheduled to meet and negotiate a potential deal.
When are they going to close the TikTok deal? Whether China will purchase those soybeans and airplanes, and whether U.S. government will take half step back on their Taiwan position. I think those are things that take a lot of time to negotiate those details.
Regardless of any deal, the underlying competition may be here to stay.
There aren't all that many areas of overlap in our last two U.S. administrations' thinking and approaches, but on export controls and on U.S.-China technology competition, especially in these really important technology areas, there has been continuity.
3 years after export controls began, AI is more critical to our lives and the global economy than ever. And control over that technology remains the key to growth, diplomacy, and power. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Supply chain experts are calling for Taiwan to build partnerships with other democracies to avoid depending on authoritarian countries for critical minerals.
But this non-rate supply chain more like referring to number one, rule-based, and number two is, of course, like-minded. That's the second element. And number three is de-risking.
Experts from around the world met in Taipei for the first think tank summit organised by the Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation and the Foreign Ministry. They said that Taiwan would be critical for helping Western countries reduce their reliance on China. Beyond semiconductors, they highlighted Taiwan's growing drone and robotics industries as areas where the country could make the largest impact. The experts also spoke about the shared threats that democracies face from authoritarian countries, like the sabotage of submarine cables and grey zone tactics. Electronics manufacturer Pegatron has bought a factory in Texas for over $30 million, marking another Taiwanese tech giant making moves towards the US. The company says the business park it bought in Blue Springs, Texas, will be for production and operational use. Industry sources say the facility will likely focus on making servers. Other Taiwanese companies that have also expanded their operations to the US include chip giants TSMC, Global Wafers and Topco Scientific, as well as electronics makers Foxconn, Compal Electronics, Quanta Computer and Wistron and Inventec. This latest deal follows the US administration's push to revitalize US manufacturing amid tariff negotiations. For more on increasing tech investments in the US, our reporter IT spoke with economist Darsin Zhou from the Confederation of Asia-Pacific Chambers of Commerce and Industry to find out what this means for Taiwan's role in the global tech supply chain.
We are seeing a number of Taiwanese tech firms making huge investments in the US, the latest being Pegatron buying a factory in Texas. How might this wave of investment stateside impact Taiwan's supply chain?
当这些大厂呢，他们拨出一部分的资源到美国去投资的话，那可能非常可能就会压缩到在台湾的这种生产的量能跟相关的投资，所以说对未来台湾的这个 GDP 的成长力的拉抬，就可能产生一些影响。因为我们台湾在过去这几十年来经济拉抬的主力那所依赖的其实就是这些高科技业的投资跟出口，那所以说这个是台湾经济成长的根本，那这个也是为什么即便在川普的对等关税的影响之下，我们的传统产业基本上都非常的低迷，但是呢，台湾的经济成长呢仍然在今年上看 5% 最主要的原因。那不过呢，如果说我们连这个引擎呢未来都因为投资美国而被这个稀释了它的这个拉抬动能的话，那其实就我们应该要未雨绸缪。
Taiwan's economy minister on Wednesday said Despite companies like TSMC investing in the US, production of advanced technology will remain in Taiwan. How can Taiwan leverage its position in this situation?
目前的话，当然是最主要最高阶的晶片还是在台湾生产，但是在未来呢，要避免就是说这种高阶的技术外移，而导致就是说台湾没有在相关的这个领域持续拥有这个比较优势的话呢，就是应该不断的朝这种供应链上游移动，也就是持续的投入研发，然后让这个技术呢跟现在台湾打算外移的这些厂的这种技术能够拉开哈。那但是在这一部分的话，当然也是希望政府能够予以协助哈，比如说在这个人才的培育在这种比如说一些租税还有各种方面的补贴。
That was Darsin Cho from the Confederation of Asia-Pacific Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Taiwan has appointed the head of its official venture capital firm as envoy to this year's APEC summit in South Korea. It will be Taiwania Capital chairman Lin Hsin-yi's third time representing the country at APEC. Lin is a former economy minister and currently serves as a senior advisor to President Lai Ching-te. The 2025 APEC Economic Leaders Meeting will take place in Gyeongju, South Korea at the end of this month. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, check out this light show for Taiwan's National Day at the Presidential Office in Taipei. Its projections include Keep Going Hualien as flood cleanup efforts continue. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.